Simply put, October 28th, 1989 was the greatest night of my life.
Not only did we beat BYU, we crushed them. Going into that game, UH had 10 straight losses against the Cougars. So the year prior, 88, we lost by 1 point, a heartbreaker. But that season opener against nationally ranked Iowa, which many fans to this day say that is the biggest upset in school history.
Thanks for all your contributions to the University of Hawaii, both as a defensive coordinator and as head coach.
Thank you, Coach Wagner.
It's kind of overwhelming. I really still haven't had a chance to have all this season sink in. It's just been an incredible year.
Aloha, aloha to all our sports fans all across the world, and especially right here in the islands. I'm so honored and grateful to have Coach Bob Wagner, a legend in Hawaii coaching circles, and clearly somebody that a lot of you have been very excited to see. So I'm super excited to welcome him in right now, all the way from the Big Island. Aloha, Coach. How are you today?
How's it, Wayne? I'm doing real good. I mean, it's nice living here on the Big Island, and we're at 4,000 feet, and sometimes we get clouds in the afternoon. Today it's been super sunny, so great climate. Great climate at 4,000 feet.
Absolutely. You get a lot of that. So you grew up on the mainland in Ohio as well, correct? So you have a little bit of that coolness.
Well, it gets well, yeah, we have coldness and then hotness. Ohio gets all the extremes. I mean, you get 100 in Yuma and get minus 15. So that's one of the reasons once I got here, hey, I thought Seattle was great. I'm a graduate assistant for Don James, and I thought they got mountains and lakes. And then I came over here, and it was all over. It's like I really didn't want to live anywhere else. So, and they let me coach football too. So,
awesome.
I mean, it didn't get any better than that. Yeah. So, my wife grew up on a small farm or ranch in Northern California. So this is a tribute to her. We have 10 acres. It's a ranch community, if you will, and there's some sheep, and we don't have horses. People have horses, so it's. She was very, very supportive for a long time, and so this is kind of her tribute. I still can get to the beach, so it's a win-win.
It's a definite win-win, and to have you still here with us in the islands really shows how much you love it here in Hawaii, and how everyone around us has really claimed you as their own as well. So just talk about, coming to the islands, your first time ever stepping off the plane in Hawaii. What was that like for you?
It was unique. One of the two people picked me up at the airport. Dan Durazio was one, who was a young assistant coach. He had GA'd at Washington before I had. And Ben Yee, my man Ben Yee, was there. And I remember vividly, the first thing we did was we went to Aloha Stadium.
Wow.
And so that was pretty impressive. It was, similar to, I remember the year I GA'd at the University of Washington. Washington, we had our spring game in the Kingdom.
Oh, wow.
First football game played in the Kingdom. And I remember before the game, Don James, the head coach, great guy, great coach, walks up to me. And I played in a small college conference in Ohio. And two of my coaches in the Hall of Fame, great program.
Wow.
But he goes, I like the Ohio Conference, right? With a big smile on his face, 65,000 seats. And so, going into Aloha Stadium was very impressive. I mean, the stadium was in the second or third year, I think second year, and it was neat to meet Ben. I mean,
yeah.
For me, we didn't have many Asians in Hawaii. I mean, and here's Ben. He had the same flat top. And,
yep.
and I felt like I was in a World War II movie or something. I mean, but what a great great person. And then Larry Price was actually the head coach.
Mm.
Got hired. Spring ball was interesting, and fortunately for me, well, about half the kids were ineligible, weren't even out to practice. And,
Oh wow, there's so many stories here. I feel like just already.
oh, we probably could go on forever. But Larry was under pressure, and Ray Nangle was a fairly new AD, and they got crossways, and Ray wanted his own guy, and so I went spring recruiting, and Larry, I called a JC coach about his players, and he goes, "Hey, I just heard on the radio your head coach resigned." I'm like, whoa.
Wow.
And fortunately, I just signed a contract before I went recruiting. So,
Oh wow. Okay.
yeah, the rest is history. And then Jim Morris Sr., playoffs.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, he was the defensive coordinator at Washington. He was one of the guys that interviewed.
Oh wow.
And he had two boys that were in school, and they weren't paying much. And Dick's kids were younger, and Dick was in the Southern California market, so it was easier for Dick to make the move over here. So
Wow.
yeah, very very fortunate that things turned out the way they did.
So you spent some time at Washington and come over to Hawaii. Had you been? What was your impression of Hawaii before you got to Hawaii?
What's interesting is I really never watched Hawaii 5-0 I remember one of my best friends growing up. We grew up together. His dad had served in World War II and gave me a dollar bill that had Hawaii in brown print. When it was when it was still a territory, and I remember that. I knew a little bit of Hawaii, but I tell you, growing up in Ohio, and we never hardly ever vacationed. So I had never traveled much, and so it was like it was very different, very very special, and I obviously got more special the longer I was here. I remember I stayed with Dan Durazio. He lived in apartments, faculty apartments on campus. I remember the doves cooing in the morning. I remember that. And then Ben was very welcoming. Once I came as a full-time coach, he was one of the first ones to take me out to dinner, and it was.
Well, we send out a definite.
I don't know if it was love at first sight, but it was love pretty quick after that.
Well, I'm sure it was a big difference coming from the mainland, but also coming to our program and give us a sense for those who weren't around in that era of UH football. Talk about what UH football was like in the bigger picture at that moment when you got to campus.
Well, we were down in the Quonset huts, World War II barrack type deal, and we Charlie Kaihui shared an office with I shared an office with Charlie, and next door. Bert was there, and he had a couch, and he shared an office with somebody, and we had a defensive staff meeting in this small room, and there was like a small staff room that we'd get together. I guess that's where the offense met, right outside of Dick's office. So it was, we had no team meeting room at all, nowhere to visit with the team. I still remember we're playing USC. I think was that the last game of the next year, 78, and our team meeting. We're between the two fields. It took the grass fields now. One is women's soccer, the other is football. There's a little bank. That was our team meeting, on the hill before SC.
Wow.
And I look at comments sometimes. I know somebody posted about who their favorite coach was, and other people posted this and that. And it's like, well, Wagner got set up through Tomey, and Dick was great to work for and did a great job. But just like all of us, you inherit players.
Of course.
And in '78, we held Charles White to just around 100 yards rushing. It was 7-5 going into or 7-2 going into the fourth quarter against SC, who won the national championship that year.
Wow.
And 5 of our 7 starters on the front were on the team when Coach Tomey and a bunch of us got there. I mean, so there were really good players already in the program, recruited by Dave Holmes and Larry Price. So it's you don't have success early on, or you're not competitive if there's not some good players already in the program.
So you were on campus already, before Coach Tomey had gotten there, correct? Or he wasn't there yet before?
Yeah. That was a fun summer. We were. I remember Jim Frankenberger, who was a USC alum, managed the Holiday Inn Airport, and there was a connection. And I had to share a room with another young coach, and it was $5 a night.
Wow.
But we had to move each. So it was, it's $5 each a night. And then, of course, I was in 77. And,
wow.
But every couple of weeks would have to move to another room. And of course, it was right across from the beach.
Mm-hmm.
And, we go for a month or two, and we don't have a head coach.
Wow.
And so a bunch of us, Rip Sheard, Andrew Adjo, we would, a lot of times go to the beach, would work out, would go to the beach, talk football,
Mm-hmm.
And we might enjoy the scenery a little bit. So it was a pretty nice summer. And then when they would have head coaches in to interview, Rudy Hubbard, who had played at Ohio State,
Mm-hmm.
Myself and another coach got to host him at the Royal Hawaiian, the surf room.
Wow.
And then because I had coached with Jim Mora, when he interviewed, I was one of the coaches that got to host him. And it's like, have you ever been to the surf room down in Waikiki? It's pretty nice.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, this is getting better. This is getting better. And then once Dick got the job, Dick, like I said, was a hell of a guy.
Mm-hmm.
Great to work for, great person. And I remember, though, he would go out of his way to call us as early as he could, just to, kind of just to be Dick Tomey.
Yeah.
He was an early rider anyway. And then with the 3-hour time change in the summer, I remember that very vividly. He would call and it's 4 or 5 in the morning our time.
Oh my goodness.
And harass us a little bit, but it was fun. I felt like we were an expansion team that first year because Hawaii there in that time could take transfers and they didn't have to sit.
Oh.
And and we were supposed to be able to do that for 2 years before we went into conference.
Mm-hmm.
And then Dick had so many contacts around the country. He would give us names. He knew people that wanted to. Had kids that were interested in transferring, or they wanted to move a kid on, and he would give us a handful of names to follow up on. I had Walt Little and Pat Schmidt were 2 of the guys I had. Walt Little was transferred from Kansas, and so I got to talk to Gail Sayers. Gail Sayers was involved in
Wow.
the recruitment, and I think he was an assistant AD at the time. And then Pat Schmidt had played for Dick as free safety at UCLA.
Mm-hmm.
And gotten in some trouble, and then they had a guy named Kenny Easley that was coming in. And so they moved Pat on, and so we had some really good players already in the program,
Mm-hmm.
and then we were able to add to it. And so the conference said, okay, you guys can do this for 1 year. You're not going to do this for 2 years. So be it. And then but then we had some good recruits.
Mm-hmm.
David Tolumo, Gary Allen, and
Mm-hmm.
Steve Lehor.
Of course.
Gary and Steve were 2 of my first recruits.
Really?
So we had some good. We had some real good players. There's no question.
I was.
They were up right there. Added. Go ahead.
No, I was happy to meet Gary last year for the first time in Vegas, or I'd seen him before, but to talk to him and David Tolomo, these are boys that they still really have such a deep pride for that era of playing for UH and playing and being a part of that that program at that time with you and other Coach Tomi's under your leadership, but it's that culture that you built then as well, and just talk about that and see how it evolved from that time that you landed on campus till you became head coach as well.
Well, first of all, I mean, not first of all, but I mean, it took a while, but the facilities improved tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so in 1981 we moved into new facilities.
Okay.
But we had a bunch of fairly young coaches.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sharp guy, and Rip Shearer was one of them. Rip's been in the NFL, been head coach of a couple different colleges. We just had a lot of good coaches and good recruiters. Dick was a real good recruiter, did a great job in state and out of state, and so we built built up our personnel. In 1980 we won 83, and then 81 we won 9-2, but we lost to BYU in a real close game, and then the next week, it was an upset, but not really. I mean, University Pacific might have been their best team in school history. They had beaten South Carolina at South Carolina.
Wow.
We did beat, I think, South Carolina the week after that. So, we had some real good players. You don't play SC when they're national champions. I mean, it was, probably, I don't know, half, but maybe as many as half of those players were first-round athletes on that team.
Mm-hmm.
Ronnie Lott, Dennis Smith were sophomores. Anthony Munoz.
Wow.
Marcus Allen was a fullback and waiting to be the tailback. Charles White was a tailback. They were loaded, and to be able to play with them, you have to have some players, and we did. I mean, we were really salty in our front seven on defense, and they struggled running the ball. And then Gary Allen, at 154 pounds, as a true freshman, almost gained 100 yards against him. I mean, there were times he made 3 or 4 people miss just to get to the line of scrimmage. So the program got stronger and stronger, and we were always competitive. We could play good defense.
Mm-hmm.
Dick's deal was, do you take care of the football, and so we were in a lot of close games. We won some, we lost some, but we were very, very competitive. And then when Dick left to go to Arizona, and one of the things that I never said in recruiting, it's since come out, and this is a little bit of a scoop for you.
Mm.
So Dick's in Arizona, and I'm getting word that he's having a change of heart. He wasn't going to some of the staff meetings, anyway, so I interviewed a couple times with Stan, and Stan was going his interviews with other people, and then Stan said, "Hey, meet me in Rockne Freitas tomorrow morning at 7:00 in my office." And so I was feeling pretty good about that. So I go in, and they stand up, congratulations, shake my hand, you're our guy.
Wow.
And Marge, the secretary, had come in early. She knocks on the door, and she's like, almost white. I mean, like, Stan, the president, the president of the university is on the phone for you.
Wow.
And Stan, takes the call. We're sitting there, and Stan goes, tell him we have a coach. And it was Dick that had called the president, and he was trying to come back. I never talked about that. It's come out publicly, I think, when Dick passed away, I think before that it had come out, but it was something that I never used in recruiting. I would have loved to use it in recruiting. I would tell kids, especially for Hawaii kids or kids who compete with Arizona, is that that Coach Tomey wanted to come back, but it's like all I said was, Coach Tomey really loved Hawaii, no, that was interesting, and just in my gut, for whatever reason, I knew what Stan, I knew what they were talking about. It was like, tell them we have a coach, and the it was the best thing for Dick because Stan and he really they didn't have a great relationship, and I remember that last year in '86 we had 9 seniors on defense, and we were competitive in games, but I think we're 7-4 something like that, and it's like, man, I don't know what's going to happen next year. If we're going to lose all these defensive kids, we're not going to be near as good. But Dick and I had also talked after the season about changing our offense. And what I was fortunate to see was to see Georgia Southern play in the Tacoma Dome in the national championship game about a month before Dick left.
Okay.
3 weeks to 4 weeks before Coach left. And Ben Griffith, who Dick ended up hiring at Arizona, that's who we had talked about. Because they ran some triple option and run and shoot combination. But when I saw Georgia Southern play, they had that, and they had some answers to what we were doing defensively in terms of reading the single back on his course as far as how the outside backer played, and so they had some answers that Ben didn't have. And so I was fortunate to hire and that's what I sold Stan on. And in fact, Stan had been a successful college football coach. He understood triple option, run and shoot, and what I was selling. He had respect for Georgia Southern and their program. The head coach had been at Georgia, the defensive coordinator, for a long time. And so anyway, so I was fortunate to hire Paul Johnson and Mike Seawalk. Paul was the offensive coordinator, Mike was an old line coach there, and and actually I got Mike's name first through Rip Shear, who had left Hawaii and then had gone on to Georgia Tech. So we changed the offense, continued to play good defense. We were, good on special teams, and we really took it to another level until they changed the admission policy. That's a whole other area. So where do you want to go, Wayne?
Well, I mean, I'm just fascinated by all these stories. I'm having a good time just getting back to that era. So we talking just to give some background to those who don't recall the year. So in '77, you came to UH about the third year. They're about to open the stadium. You become the defensive coordinator under Coach Tomey in '83, I believe, right? And then Coach Tomey moves on in '87, and you begin your career. And Coach Johnson joins you that first year as your offensive coordinator as well, correct? And,
yes.
Talking about that era and bringing in Coach Johnson's offense, what was the response to that initially as well?
Well, the first game we played Cal State Fullerton, and I have a game ball on that. I mean, it was like 59-0,
wow.
49-0, like that. And Fullerton had beaten us once under Dick, and they had been pretty competitive, and but they had a lot of guys could run and whatnot, but they weren't prepared for triple option, even though they had all year or all spring and the fall. I mean, just the physicality of what we could do and the responsibility. And but after that game, that was the first game of the season. I remember then people were going like, "Can we win every game?" It's like, hold on a second. We got like 9 new starters on defense. I mean, we're breaking in a new offense, and then we went to Wisconsin, and it didn't go as well up there. Let's put it that way. But and I remember Rich Ellerson. Rich, great guy. Rich had left the Naval Academy, played at UH, was a GA when I first got there, and then he came and went a couple of different times. I hired him as defensive coordinator. He had been a defensive assistant for a number of years as a GA, and then as a full-time assistant. Dick was there, and then he had left to go up to Canada with Wayne Akina. Wayne joined Dick in Arizona. Rich comes back as defensive coordinator. I don't know if it was a Cal State Fullerton game or a game after that. I remember Rich in the press box goes, he's in the box, I'm on the field, and I'll go back. I was always on a headset. That was what I learned from Don James. Every call went through me. I didn't make every call. But every call went through me.
Okay.
After a game, I wasn't going to second guess the assistant coaches because I had a chance to change the call or veto the call.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know what was going on. Don told me a story about how he and Jim Mora, BS'd Eddie Crowder at times in Colorado because Eddie wasn't on the headset. But that's a whole another deal. But anyway, Rich Ellerson been with us when we struggled to score points, but we did control the clock, which helps your defense. And we scored real quick a couple of times. People just weren't sound. And Rich, I hear Rich go, gosh, I mean, do we have to score so quick? Because you don't have a chance to rep the defense, make adjustments. And I'm going, Rich, just think about what you just said. Are you kidding me? I mean, we just struggle to score points, and now you're saying, "Gosh, do we have to score so fast?" I mean, the defense has some say in how fast we score, but it's not a bad deal, especially when you're scoring touchdowns. I mean, that's okay for the most part. But anyway, that first year, so we struggled, and then the second year, our defense was mature in '88. And I felt, I know, whether the guys bought into it, but I like to try to be factual. And I felt like, including returners, kicking, etc., we were going to be improved in like 22 or 23 out of 24, 25 positions. Offense, defense, special teams area. I mean, because we had so many guys returning. Jason Elam was added to the mix. Who after seeing him kick for about a week, it's like, can we put his leg on the ice and make sure he gets to the Iowa game? So I really, and we played Iowa tough before. I mean, we just couldn't score any points. We held them down defense because we had, our guys maybe weren't real tall on the defensive front, but they're stout. And so we could hold the point. And I felt we had a good chance against Iowa. And so in '88, we upset Iowa. We started off 4-0. Jim Fossil, who coached as a head coach in the Super Bowl, we beat them 60-something to whatever at Utah.
Wow.
But he had put all his players on defense, on offense. And so their defense struggled. Beat Colorado State on the road.
That Iowa game, people still talk about it today. Is the significance has it changed for you? Does it seem more of an impressive feat to have accomplished, or are you still kind of like, we kind of had them before and we kind of knew we had a chance? Or how do you think about that game as you reflect on it today?
Well, I reflect on some of these games. I probably should have embellished them more. I mean, I got to the point where. Really. I mean, because, they were Big Ten, Sport Magazine, or Sports Illustrated. One of them had the number one in the country.
Wow.
Pre-season. Everybody had in the top 10. Well, we had watched the film. We had played, they had played Michigan. I'm not sure if that was a year before Michigan beat them when they, Michigan stopped a 2-point conversion, and Iowa had pretty much everybody coming back. I think Michigan went to the Rose Bowl. Somebody could fact check me on that or whatnot. But I thought, hey, we're doing stuff and we match up, and just like here's a stat, and people probably don't really know, and it gets glossed over because we didn't have a very good season in '90. I think it was '94. We beat a Pac-10 team that went to the Rose Bowl, and by I think 10 or 20 points, and they were undisputed Pac-10 champions.
Wow.
You know who that would have been?
Who was it at that time? I'm blanking on them now.
Oregon.
Oregon. That's right.
The third time we beat Oregon, I think it was '94.
At Oregon, game that was there, or the game at home?
'92 we won at Oregon.
Okay, yes.
And they did go to the bowl game that year. And I think when you start comparing teams, eras, and all that, you got to look at who did they beat and how did those teams do?
Yeah.
Because as good as the wins were at Washington, at Nebraska, both those teams had terrible seasons, and both coaches got fired at the end of the year. And I'm not sure Hawaii didn't have as good of players because at that time those schools were not that integrated. And in Hawaii, you had some military kids, some black kids, and they had, the Polynesians. Most of them weren't leaving the islands then, right? I mean, unless a guy was a physical freak, people weren't recruiting him. So, I'm very proud of teams that we beat and how those teams did. Like Iowa went to a bowl game that year. Now they disappointed, but they still, had a winning record in the Big Ten and went to a bowl game. And just like Oregon, two of those wins against Oregon, they go to bowl game.
That's amazing. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, so it's so anyway, I felt like, I should have made a bigger deal of some of those wins, because it was like I wanted our players to feel like they could compete against anybody. Of course. And it's, and we beat them, we're expected to beat them. But then what happens, and the fans expect that.
Yes.
And then, some of the media will tell you this, but they won't, they never wrote it. The more success we had, especially once Stan passed away, we couldn't. Well, first of all, the 9 years I was head coach, we could never get anybody in school that had trouble. Yeah. When they were younger at another college.
I see. Yeah.
Colt Brennan.
Of course. Yeah. Devon. Yeah.
When I was at Arizona, Tina Samoa's legal guardian was a former Arizona quarterback. Nobody in the Pac-10 was allowed to recruit him.
Really?
I believe in giving guys second chances, but we couldn't. I had trouble giving guys our program second chances. And who was the other? Devon Best.
Yeah, Devon Best.
His best player. Well, and then the fourth one, that was one of his best, was a Wagner. I mean, the 19 years that I was there with Dick and myself, we had some really good players. We never had a first-round draft pick. I mean, you have a first-round draft pick that's a walk-on. I mean, that's and then like Mark Tournay, during Dick's era, we had some guys like that. But not only we could never recruit those guys, then we couldn't get kids in school that were non-qualifiers. And we had teams in state. Utah was coming in, and they could get non-qualifiers from Hawaii to the University of Utah.
Wow.
I mean, it was just, and so the last 3 years, were really tough because the cabinet was getting barer, and then the other thing I did, the mistake I made was, I didn't take a full-time coach and make him a full-time recruiting coach. I didn't want to do that, and my last year or two, Jim Cochran ended up being an excellent NFL scout. Was a recruiting coordinator, and I think my next to last year, we had a heck of a recruiting class. Adrian Clem, Kalana Noah, actually Joe Wong, who kind of got ran off by Von Oppen, transferred to BYU. We had a kid that transferred out of there to Portland. Anyway, that class had 5 offensive linemen, all had NFL tryouts or were drafted. So, but it's like I was trying to get money for a recruiting coordinator. Yeah. So I didn't have to do that with a full-time coach. So anyway, the Iowa win. Yeah, I mean, in hindsight, the hell of a win. The 3 wins over Oregon. Yeah. I mean, 2 bowl teams, a road bowl team.
Of course.
So anyway.
Well, those 2 wins that people still talk about today from your time. Of course, BYU wins in '89 and '90. And what strikes you when you think about those games? When you turn back the page and you go back, what is the first thing you feel in your body when you think about those games?
Well, I feel good. I feel good. But, the first 2 years we played BYU, I think we lost by a total of 3 points, those 2 games. So we were really close. And then, my background growing up in Ohio, I mean, Ohio State, Michigan, and each team always had a little something extra for the game.
Mm-hmm.
And so with BYU, first of all, we're going to change the offense. Number one is, who do you have and who do you have to beat? And that's one of the things people talk about in coaching.
Yeah.
I mean, really any. And to me, I told myself if I didn't beat BYU in the first 4 years, I didn't want to be the head coach.
Wow.
Now I would have stayed on if they had had me. But in my mind, you want to put pressure on yourself. And so we had evolved defensively on special teams to compete with BYU. I mean, when we lose to them 13-3 1 year, 18-13. I mean, and I was coaching the Hula Bowl. We had guys come in from UCLA. BYU was playing UCLA, every year. And I mean, it'd have some guys like, we don't have an outside linebacker that looks like that. And they're giving up 35 points, 28 points to BYU. So to me, putting an offense in that gave us a chance against BYU. BYU is very physical, and we're going to spread them out. We're going to double at the point. We're going to read some people. We're not going to block everybody. Play action pass, and then that first big win. I mean, we hit them with some new formations, and one of the things I take great pride in that first game is 56-7 after 3 quarters. And if I knew our second team offense wasn't going to score, I'd have probably played the first team longer. But we set a school record for sacks, as well as scoring, I think, touchdowns on first, 6 out of 7 possessions or whatever it was. I mean, and one of the players reminded one of the reporters that I told the team before the game it didn't have to be close. Now, I felt that in my heart that it didn't have to be close score-wise, but I also felt if it's close against BYU, the perennial champion in the conference, the officials aren't going to give you the benefit of the doubt on anything. So I had motivation for wanting it not to be close because I didn't want, I know I had a friend at Washington when they won the national championship, and Gary Pinkel went on and had success at Missouri his last gig, but he said when they were number 1 in the country, they got every call. And I felt like BYU when they were dominating the conference, not only were they better than everybody, but they were they get to put it down. So they're just great women. My wife, who you just saw a little bit ago, was great coach's wife. Didn't grow up with football. Didn't second guess me. You got enough second guessers as a head coach anyway. After that 56-14 game, we're driving home. I usually would let her drive. I'm pretty exhausted, and she didn't seem happy. I was about as happy as I've ever been after a game. And she goes, I said, what's the matter? She said, I think you should have gone for 60. It's like, whoa. But she sat there all those years when we lost close games. And then, LaBelle Edwards was a great guy, and Patty Edwards, got to know them. But I guess Patty in particular, had the attitude like, we're supposed to win, and it's okay if we win by a lot. It's okay if we throw the ball late in the game, that sort of thing. So Gloria, we really like Patty, but she had a little thing, I think, because of, she had to listen to some of that rhetoric for a couple of years.
Of course. She wanted to run the score up. She wanted you to run it up, wanted them to remember Hawaii on those days. But they still do, I'm sure, especially on Ty Detmer's, the day he wins the Heisman. And talk about that, because that's a very interesting thing as well, that you play BYU at home 2 years in a row. And on the day a guy wins the Heisman, he plays in a game as well, which is kind of a strange thing, too.
Well, because we played late. The games were late. And BYU chose to play us more often in Hawaii because they recruited hard in Hawaii, had a lot of fans there. It was a treat for their players. And and they won.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and they got to play an extra game. So
Yeah.
always got to 12 games. Then they got a little mini bowl experience. They had a lot of Mormons come and watch them,
Mm-hmm.
and come in here and recruit. I mean, I got to the point I was trying to talk Stan into scheduling where if teams recruited in here on a yearly basis, don't play them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
because there's motivation if the Pac-10 schools want to play you, and
Mm-hmm.
now a lot of it's home and home.
Yep.
There's a reason they want to play you
Of course.
in Hawaii,
Of
because
course.
they can come in and it helps their recruiting. Why help their recruiting? But we never got to that point. But the Oregon deal. I mean,
Yeah.
we were 4-0. Oregon State that year. I don't think the team had a winning record. Or 5-6 or something. But their coach was Pac-10 Coach of the Year, and so we were 3-0 against Oregon, 1-0 against Oregon State,
Wow.
and 1-1 against Cal Berkeley.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were 3-3 against Big Ten teams, including that Iowa team. That Iowa team, most people, I didn't realize. I read something or saw something on that Illinois
Mm-hmm.
program.
Mm-hmm.
They had been to like 5 consecutive bowl games.
Wow.
I didn't realize they had been having, and that was like our second bowl game ever and first one on the mainland.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that Illinois team, they had a great defense, and they had struggled some. They lost some games or a close game, but they had tied Michigan in the Big House
Mm-hmm.
and beat Ohio. And Michigan was, in the top 5 in the country, and they beat Ohio State, a top 20 Ohio State team in Columbus that year. I mean, Illinois had, and so that win is probably as good as any. And they had 200 underclassmen were first-round draft picks, high first-round draft picks on defense, and they had offensive tackle as a first-round pick. So they were a good program,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why, to me, it's like you can't evaluate wins just based on did you win and does that team have a name. It's like, how'd that team do?
Yes.
I mean,
that's true.
what was their record when it was all said and done?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll put what we did against anybody in that regard. I mean, any and in the future too.
Yeah.
And somebody can do the numbers on that. And
well, when we had one of your great recruits, Derek Branch, on our show, he talked a lot about looking at where the program was headed and how they were just so close. They're just so close, and they had so many pieces. And he talked a lot about the boys that his friends that got him, and they all kind of together took that oath. So were you there handing them the pen and the contract? Was that you? Because he talked about that moment signing for UH as well and turning down Illinois as well.
Well, they committed. I saw most of that show. They were together and they committed.
Okay.
But if you think about that was 88.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said his first game was the Iowa game. That's why. Yeah.
So he's okay. Well, that's then I'm a little bit behind on that. We did a better job recruiting than I thought because I know he was talking about Hayden Fry. So that was like our first full recruiting class. That was after the '87 season, and so
wow.
Had we already beaten Iowa, right?
Mm-hmm.
He signed in '88.
Mm-hmm.
So he came in '88. So he was a freshman. So we had not beaten Iowa yet. So we did a better job recruiting than I thought because in '88. We beat Iowa and Oregon. Now, Oregon did have a losing record that year. That's the end of the season. Iowa went to a bowl game. And then we lost to the best Wyoming team in school history.
Wow.
The best UTEP team in school history. And to another really good BYU team. We were 9-3 and didn't go to a bowl game. And that how about this now? I mean, and I love Lolo. I really like Lolo. Was it his second year? They were 5-6, got an exemption to go to a bowl game.
Yep.
At home.
First
won
year.
It. the coaches all got bowl bonuses. I mean, we're with Dick 8-3, 9-2, no bowl game. Then finally we go 9-3, no bowl game. And I remember, I think Washington State came to the Aloha Bowl. That's a whole other deal. The Maki Hanakazawa, the Aloha Bowl. That's another show, almost.
We're definitely going to have another show about that. Believe me, we want to hear all these stories.
But anyway, we go to a bowl game, and there's no bonus, and so fast forward a number of years, and you go 5 and 6, and you're in a bowl, and you get a bonus, and you're not even making the school any money. I mean, it's crazy. Stan lived in fear of running a deficit. I mean, that was a whole deal. He ran, because we never made much money as assistants. I was shocked how little money Dick Tomey made after being there 10 years and going from, I think the year before Dick got there, maybe they averaged 18,000, and we might have went up to 28 our first year, and then it just kept going up. But our salaries didn't go up with the attendance. So anyway,
it's amazing. No, it's amazing to think about just your attendance figures at that time too, because when people think about that era, the Tomey to Wagner era, they think about the crowds, and they think about that noise, and they think about the confetti coming from the rafters, that whole culture around our home games. I mean, what was that like for you being in that stadium and having toilet paper thrown from the upper decks and everything too?
I didn't really notice that until after the game, for the most part. I mean, when you're whether in the box or on the sideline, I mean, you're focused. I mean, I remember maybe once every other year, we'd get a call on my call-in radio show, and some sweet lady would say, in the middle of the second quarter, did you see somebody in the end zone throw something, at somebody? And it's like, I want to say, are you kidding me? And I'd be, but no, I mean, the crowds were electric. The downside was most of the time we didn't play BYU at the end of the season because we had good crowds every week. But when you're playing BYU, it's a build-up. It's 50,000. I mean, the place is electric. And then you come in the next week or 2 weeks later, and you got 44, 42, 45. It's just not the same as these schools like Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, Auburn. When you play of course, BYU is playing their biggest rival, Utah. Yeah. But at that time, BYU was everybody's biggest rival. Because of the Mormon population and the Hawaii kids playing, but it was a little bit of a downer. The other thing coming into the stadium is as a coach. For a long time we didn't have air-conditioned buses either. Yeah. We went to the game on lowest bidder, and they were old school buses, and the windows open. Wow. And everybody's got their grills going, and you can smell the food, and I get nauseous half the time. From the time we got into the parking lot to getting in the locker room. All the tailgating. Well, I mean, you're uptight anyway and all that, and then you smell this food, and but later on we were fortunate. We could keep the windows up, and we had air conditioning.
Well, I had to, Sean, who was in that earlier clip talking about the greatest day of his life was in 1989. One of the worst moments of his life, I think, was the dropped catch in 93 at BYU. And he wanted to know what your memories were of that moment and any ramifications you think would have come out of it had he had caught that ball as well.
93?
The 93, I think it was. BYU? At BYU, yes.
Don.
I think it was, yes. I think it was it was a low-scoring game, I believe. It was a 93 BYU. We can get back to it if we need to. Just to see, Sean Iman most of his childhood memories are tied to your games against BYU. So we're gonna have Sean comment again if he needs any follow-up. But You know, he a lot of that BYU, like you talked about there, that game had so many. It meant so much to you, like you said. There are teams that you needed to beat, and there are teams that you wanted to beat right away. But Shane said 6-3 was was the score of that game. Do you remember that game?
6-3 against BYU.
Yes. Was it the BYU, Shane? So I'm looking to my crowd right now to go back to that season. But I believe, yeah, you had a game, and the year after that is your last year. But do you remember, the tide was kind of turning, and what did you think about your time at UH? Did you think you'd be there longer, or what were you thinking, I think, as the 94 season had gone on?
No, I really struggled. I mean, no, I mean, when you can't get, first of all, I mentioned three of June's best players. The Noga brothers, a couple of my best players, Ma'atanabasa, Asi Famui. When you can't get those guys in school, where your own the admissions office has a program on campus, or there's a program on campus for kids that have struggled, that have potential.
Yeah.
We could never have our athletes in that program because a lot of the stuff they did was in the afternoon. So we had a program where we could get some kids in, give them extra counseling, and they took that away from us. And a couple of those administrators are now in the UH Hall of Honor. But they took that away from us. In 92, when we went to Holiday Bowl, I knew in my heart we were a program in decline because we couldn't get some of these special, local kids, or mainly Ivan Jasper. Ivan Jasper took the SAT once, guessed at every answer, was a student body president at Inner City High School, and who knows how many $100,000 a year he's making as the offensive coordinator at the Naval Academy.
Yeah, exactly.
But we couldn't get those kids in. Fresno was taking like 15 of them a year.
Wow.
And so it was a real struggle because the expectations had gone up, and I think I had helped create them in terms of
course, yes.
Here's what our goals are. Because one of the things, as great as Dick was, he never talked about winning the conference, going to bowl games, and I started recruiting on that. I just really believe, what you think, and you get that in the player's mind. The expectation, was, hey, we want to beat BYU. We want to get in a bowl game kind of in order. We want to win the conference. We want to go to a bowl game and win it. I mean, that wasn't totally in order, but we had very specific goals, and based on when I took over, the kids that we could get in, even though we couldn't get, the kid that had a police problem or something like that. I mean, we could get enough kids in that gave us a chance. And so so it was a real struggle. I mean, it really tore at me the last few years because you just know that when you go to Air Force, you go to Air Force for years and the grass is high, and then you go up there. I forget what year it was, and the grass was real low. They know what you know, that you don't have the speed. You don't have the speed you used to have. I was thinking about this the other day. The first 6 years, where we could get, through 92, where we could get kids in that, Dave Holmes could get in, Dick Tomey could get in, I think June could get in. I don't know about Bob Hoppen. We had a hell of a record. I mean, we outscored BYU by a ton. Like I said, we had we beat them 3 times, 2 of those, and we lost 3 times, but 2 of those losses were like by a total of 3 points. So it was a real struggle, and one of the things I could have done is taken somebody off off the field and made him a full-time recruiting coordinator, that would have helped. But it's still, you still don't replace Nico or Alnoga
Yeah.
or Ma'atana Masa or Ta'asi Falmuni. You don't replace those guys.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 50 schools in the mainland recruiting those guys if they're on the mainland. So it was, it was a real struggle, and we, when I got terminated, I had 2 years left, and I brought a couple guys in, and the athletic director told them that, hey, I had 3 years on my contract, and it gave the impression that, I've got at least 2 years, and I gave George Lumpkin an opportunity, and philosophically we were a little different. George was a great guy. I thought George deserved a chance, and I wasn't going to micromanage him.
Of course.
We had new coordinators, so it was, and we had some really good young players coming in. So it was, it was a struggle. I mean, but it's just hard, kind of like, one of the analogies I've used is like we created a monster, a giant, and then we put him on a diet.
Yeah, I get it.
Or we quit feeding it.
Yeah.
And like I said, Fresno was taking like 15 or 20 non-qualifiers a year.
Wow.
I mean,
in
California, they're in California.
Yeah.
I mean, anyway.
No, I mean, and that is a big part. I mean, we don't talk a lot. We don't talk enough about how difficult it was for you to recruit non-qualifiers, even partial qualifiers. I don't even think for a time, the school didn't want. They wanted just full qualifiers who had the SATs, had the GPA, and that's difficult. Like you said, that is difficult. But we go back to that 94 season and your press conference. I want to bring that up because it's kind of one of those moments that to see the solidarity that Coach Wallace showed for you at that point as well. I mean, how did you feel about that?
You're talking about, wasn't that 95?
Or 95, yes. At the press conference when Coach Wallace stood up for you and made that gesture. What do you remember about that?
Well, I just remember hearing afterwards they threatened him. You want to make it a twofer.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that was nice. I didn't have to go to that press conference.
Mm-hmm.
But what I had always told the players, I mean, because we had so much media coverage. We had 2 newspapers back then. And that was a big deal because, they were both trying to survive and had some outrageous headlines at times I'm not even going to go into. But I decided I was going to go. And what I'd always told the players, if you don't have anything good to say, don't say it. And I told them that forever, as a way, because, you're talking to the media all the time. And so I just felt I was going to take the high road. I went, and there's a lot of things I wanted to say. I've said a few of them tonight, or this afternoon. But it's like, I told, here's what I preach to the players. And even though I'm on the way out, I'm not going to be a hypocrite. And probably in my heart, I didn't think it was going to make any difference anyway. I mean, they had all the answers. They knew all the answers. I mean, Stan Sheriff, had been a college coach himself, a college head coach. Never questioned anything we did. And here, I'm working for an administrator that coached on a high school level, and he was questioning some things.
Yeah.
And not that anybody has all the answers, but I just thought that was really interesting. And then, and Rocky Freitas. Rocky Freitas was associate AD. Rocky had played I don't know how many years in the NFL. I mean, he knew a little football. They were just very supportive. And I think they understood that there's a lot of ways you can do things, and and so be it. Just be supportive, and you go from there. So that like I said, I didn't need to do that. I just thought that was the right thing to do. I mean, it was nice that Riley did that. I mean, because when you're head coach of one of the major programs, you understand even more how hard it is. And I remember for years, now this was, I guess, under any administrators, I mean, we would have, if you're a head coach of a sport, once a month, I think we might have had a meeting of all the coaches, and you would have thought that we were all equal in the meeting. I mean, no one said, "Boy, hey, we're happy that attendance is well and we're good in football," or what. It was like, "Hey, we're all the same." So if you're the reason I have a little bit of a down year, you're gonna put it all on me, and they did. I mean, because of the financial thing. I mean, here's another little tidbit. For a number of years, I tried to get travel warm-ups. I mean, we had long trips, and there were, and so everybody was looking uniform. Also, our guys were well behaved, but the feeling if they were into UH stuff, if they had any inkling of not being well behaved in the airport, people could ID them.
Of course.
And I tried to get that in the budget, I don't know, for several years. And it was, $10,000, $12,000 to have enough travel warm-ups. So as is 88, 89, I mean, we're going to bowl games, we're winning. I'm trying to get that. And we don't get it approved. And so finally, before the 92 season, I tell Kenji, the equipment manager, I said, "Kenji, just order them." Just order 150. And so it wasn't until 92 when we had our travel warm-ups. We opened at Oregon, and I would take the team for a little walk before breakfast, as a way to take attendance, and just move a little bit. And one of our administrators, who had been denying us the warm-ups, goes, "Boy, the team really looks good this morning." And I didn't say anything because back then, we couldn't get a big shoe contract.
Of course.
I mean, so we didn't, people weren't throwing, stuff at us or whatnot. Yeah. We were happy to get a little money for shoes. But it was, it was interesting. I mean, I loved the time there. I loved Hawaii. I loved coaching there. I loved the players. But people had no idea. Like I said, Stan was scared to death of running a deficit. I mean, program was expanding, and and hey, they were spoiled. They had good coaches that recruited well, coached well, and were having enough success that they could get a little money into these programs and grow these programs. And of course, Title IX, it come in, so they were making progress that way. But it was So even though we got new facilities, that going back to '78, where we're having a team meeting on the Hill before we're playing the national champions. I mean,
amazing.
Things changed, but in some ways they didn't. When the new facility came in, the weight room was smaller than some high school weight rooms. I mean, it was. But the thing about Dick was great, and I was pretty good. I mean, we didn't make excuses. Yeah. And we had some good players. I mean, you don't have success without good players. Yes. A lot of those players were local kids. Some were mainland guys, but a lot of them were non-qualifiers. Yeah. And every school in the country makes exceptions. It's just to what extent do they make exceptions? I mean, I remember when I was in Arizona, I recruited a kid that went to Stanford. Now, he projected as a D lineman, which are harder to find. He got into Stanford with 950 on his SAT.
What?
Now, Yeah.
How's that possible? Wow. Wow.
Did I tell you what he was? He was a projected defensive lineman. Those are rare.
Ah.
Those are rare. So they didn't make those exceptions for many kids, if any, but every now and then, I mean, there's like a sliding scale.
Of course.
The same time, there was an offensive lineman that, I mean, just looked the part. In L.A., I was trying to recruit. Ended up going to UCLA. I mean, he was a stud. And he had like 1250 or whatever. And he didn't get in the Stanford.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Because he was an O-line.
They're like, we got plenty of you guys. Don't worry about it.
and he was a California kid, and so there's more kids applying to Stanford from his high school than there are from, say, the Seattle area or St. Louis or whatever. Yeah.
Well, you refer to your time in Arizona a lot. Actually, you have in this interview, which is interesting because it sounds like you were still coaching even after you left UH. You still had that bug, and Coach Tomey brought you back to Arizona, and you had a stop before that as well, I believe, right? Was it high school or something that you did, or were you all in college until you got back to Arizona?
No, I was holding out for another head coaching job.
Okay.
And I had years left of my contract, so I missed a couple coaching cycles. I think I could have gone to Oregon as a defensive coordinator a couple months after UH let me go, and my ego got in the way. I mean, it's like we'd beaten Oregon 3 times, and I was burnt out because the last 2 years were really hard.
Of course,
you're trying to win, and you don't have support, and then it's all on you. I mean, I was a little burnt out, but I was ready to get back into coaching. And Dick gave me an opportunity, and Dwayne Aquino was there, Rich Ellerson, and Dick, Dino Babers, who had played for us, and so it's like getting together with fraternity brothers.
Of course.
It was, the defensive staff, 3 of us. I introduced Dwayne Aquino. He's been at Stanford for a while, been at Texas. I introduced him to Dick. Got him one of the GAs, so he was a graduate assistant for me, and then Rich, we'd coached together for several different times, and so it was just great working with those guys, and Marty Long was on that staff, and then I thought, well, hey, this is fun. The first year at Arizona, we finished 4th in the country.
Yeah, we opened
against Hawaii that year, and it was a pretty close game.
Yeah,
and Hawaii didn't win a game that year. And we lost to UCLA, finished 12-1, beat Nebraska in the Holiday Bowl.
That was a Desert Swarm year as well, right?
Well, it's okay, man. You put me on. You get me out on different tangents. Desert Swarm. The first time Desert Swarm, that defensive concept was played, was in 1988 against the University of Iowa.
Oh.
In a local stadium. We called it Double Eagle Flex. And it was similar to a defensive front we had played with some zone coverage that had a lot of holes in it. Good versus a run. And it was a concept that Rich Ellerson had brought down from Canada. And we played a man coverage with it, so the front was good and the man coverage was good, and it was especially good against 2-back. Now, Iowa still scored 21 points. And so that was our basic concept when Rich was a defensive coordinator. And but we were playing option teams. We didn't usually play Air Force very well because we had to bastardize it, and we didn't do some of the things we had done when we did a better job against Air Force. So anyway, the short of it is Rich leaves and goes to Arizona. He had his family in Tucson. And Chris Smealan elevated Chris. And, Chris was a, hell of a coach, hell of a defensive coach. So I got much more involved in defense. Okay. So we had the flex package, and then we had our, what we call slide, which is kind of an undershift. there was better versus the option. So we're open at Oregon and at Air. How about this? At Oregon and at Air Force back to back.
Wow.
I mean, that's like Alabama playing in London and Berlin back to back.
Exactly. That's insane.
Really? Can you imagine? I mean, oh my goodness! I can't believe they're doing this. Like, we did that back to back, and we had a package for Oregon, a package for Air Force, and then we evolved away from the double eagle flex because we saw so much option and one back teams, and one back to an open side. It's not, you're outnumbered. And anyway, Rich goes, and I don't know if we did the first year or second year there, they put in the double eagle flex. They have some good players. Rich is a hell of a defensive front coach. Larry McDuff was there. He was a defensive coordinator, but Rich was basically running the defense. And the Pac-10 was vanilla. They were two-back offense. It just ate that stuff up. And had good players, well coached. And all at once, it was Desert Swarm, a scheme that we had put in. So that was like mid-'90s. We had put that in like 9 years before, and we had evolved away from it. And in '92, we played really good defense. We got, we played it some against Oregon, and then we got more under slide and angle and played really good defense. Because again, so much one back. I mean, unless we went to the board, it still might not make sense to you if we went to the board and chalked it up. But
we can do it. We can do that once too. We would love to have you. You can draw it all up for a coach. I would love that.
But one of Ellerson's comments I remember him making, because we had played that scheme and had success. I mean, and Rich was good at attacking protections, and we got after BYU big time. And Rich had to have got a lot of credit for that. But Rich's comment was, "Wow, what a difference a few time zones make." In other words, they're playing a defense, having success on the West Coast and in the Pac-10, and they're getting national recognition. And here we are in Hawaii having success and whatnot, and we got some recognition, but nothing like that. So Desert Swarm, Arizona, we played that for.
I love that.
88, 89, 90, 91, and then we balled out of it, in 92. Yeah.
Wow, the Hawaii roots of Desert Swarm. See, that's something else that a lot of us didn't know. But you, after Arizona, you.
Most people don't know that.
Well,
and Arizona may deny it. I mean, Rich Blow, he's an upfront guy, but go ahead.
No, that wasn't actually, thinking about that era and all of that coaching tree that you're a part of as well. And there's so many different branches going here and there, but all these folks you talk about ended up, and still are in head coaching jobs around the country. And just talk about that aspect and how amazing that is to see all your friends coaching right now.
No, it's great. And we when I retired from command schools, we moved. We traveled for a year, and we moved full time. 9 months out of the year, we were coming back here in the winters to Annapolis, Maryland. And so my knee was really bad that first year. I'd go to practice a lot, and Kenny was there, and Ivan Jasper, and that was fun. I get tickets to games. But it's been great to see so many coaches have so much success. But and I like Dave Matlin a lot, but it really hurt me. And then they got a good head coach with a really good track record. I'm happy Victor Santa Cruz is there. Victor is a hell of a guy, and played for us. Played for me when I was a head coach. But there's so many Hawaii people out there, Hawaii ties that are good people, good coaches, and that. And I tried to go for that for any of them that tried to get me to put a word in, and Dave made a good hire. The guy got a great track record, but it still stung a little bit.
Yeah.
What you're saying with so many Hawaii people out there. I mean, from the Tommy era, my era, June's era, especially those three eras are with so many good coaches, assistant coaches, and it's so hard to get a head coaching job.
Absolutely.
Like I was really happy when Rolo was hired.
Mm-hmm.
And it turned out that was a good hire, and I guess Dave, got to know the new coach well, probably in that one bowl game Tulsa played at Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
And, like I say, he got a good track record. At least Victor's there, and they retained a couple guys, which is was positive, but. It's neat to see. One of the things about June's era, which me having played offensive line in college and being maybe from the Midwest, I could have never done. But the fact that June kind of did a BYU, where threw the ball all the time, had all these great stats, and they get more national publicity because of it. And that was kind of the same thing with BYU, right? I mean, you lead the nation in passing or whatnot. I mean, especially with the media, it was rare that Desert Swarm got so much attention. Yeah. It's part of that is because they won and they won in close games. But yeah, I mean, so that, but I've thought about that. I still, because it still helps to run the ball. Yeah. And, we still threw for 300 or 400 yards at times.
Yeah, yeah.
But if 5 people down with the running game, it helps your defense. I mean, and, everything. But, but, just, proud that a lot of guys that I coached or coached with have done really well in coaching. Well, and it's great because I can get free tickets.
Absolutely, of course. But now, I'm not going to travel this far. But you got to go to Syracuse to get your free tickets and stuff too now.
Kim McLeod. No, I went to a Syracuse game. I had a great angle when Lamar Jackson hurdled the defensive back. I mean, I had an angle. It's like the guy's right there. And it's like, okay, how's he going to get out of this? Which way is he going to move? And he just went over him. Ran in for.
He's amazing to watch live. He's amazing to watch live. I saw him on Monday night last year at Ravens-Rams, and Lamar Jackson is definitely a treat to watch live for sure.
Yeah, well, and he hit some deep passes against Syracuse. But no, I saw Syracuse play on a Friday night. We were doing a little. Well, I tell you, Hawaii had played at Michigan. We went to that game. Had never been to Montreal, Ottawa. Went to that game, got the sideline pass, and then we went on. And Friday night, Syracuse played Louisville, and I didn't get to see Dino or Kim, but I saw their wives at a tailgate before, and then Tim Lyons, who had played quarterback for us in the early 80s under Dick, was a good friend of Dino's, and their wives knew each other from the ages. So that was nice. And being in Annapolis was a lot of fun. And I went to several Georgia Tech games. I mean, when they were, if they played in Virginia or whatnot, North Carolina, I'd go. And I saw them also at Georgia Tech once in Atlanta. So no, it's been fun, doing that. I went to Washington. They've done an incredible job with their stadium facility. Yes. But when UH played there last fall, we were actually hadn't planned it. We were on a trip up in the Northwest and went to the game. So that's been fun. I mean, I miss the competition. I don't miss the grind at all. I'm enjoying retirement, but I do miss strategizing and the competition.
Well, you've been keeping up at least with UH. I know leaving is. Was it hard for you? Was there any bitterness towards the program at all, or just not necessarily bitterness, or just the kind of feeling like I don't really want to keep up with them right now? There's just some kind of thing lingering, or have you always been kind of up to date with whatever was going on with the UH program since you left?
I got away from it the first several years. I was still in state when and was hired. I took him to lunch.
Wow. Okay.
You know, I mean, I'd been in the program 19 years. Just felt, and he was nice enough, but he had no questions for me. I mean, I think he had all the answers, and then by the time he left, he was, then he turned on Yoshida, and like, I don't know why they fired him, Wagner to start with.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't know. And you don't want to talk about how hard it is. No one wants to hear that. Just make it happen. You still need some help. And when people, that are running the show that don't know what the hell they're doing. I remember talking to Dick a few times about his conversations with Ray Nagel. Ray Nagel had played at UCLA, had been a head coach at Iowa, AD at Washington State, comes over to Hawaii. Ray knew what it took to win. And I remember, one thing in particular, probably a couple things, but I remember Dick talking about when we brought in Mark Tuinei, Andy Page, Reggie Young, I don't know, there's at least a half dozen transfers from UCLA and Oregon. Dick had buddies there, Donahue and Brooks. And some of those guys had been in trouble. And Rich went to Ray and said, Ray, we got a chance to get these guys from these programs. And I think they're pretty good. Danny Lay was pretty good players. And Ray's deal was, well, how hard would it to have recruited them out of high school? Oh, we tried to recruit them out of high school. We couldn't get those kids out of high school. And so his deal was like, well, bring them on. That's the difference when you want to have, you need to have some scruples. At the same time, you need to give yourself a chance to be competitive. And at the very least, you need to be able to get the same kids in school people in your league can get in school.
Yes, definitely.
Like I remember Fisher DeBerry. Now they can be non-qualifiers, but the Air Force Academy.
Wow.
Everybody's on scholarship. Everybody's on scholarship, right? And I remember Fisher talking about in a staff, a league head coaches meeting once. It's like with his southern accent. Well, y'all, we can't redshirt players. And I mean, I didn't miss a beat. I said, Fisher, how many of your starters went to prep school?
Yep.
Which is a lot better than redshirting because you're running the system you're going to run next year, and you get to playing games. And I can't tell you how many different Hula Bowl players we had from the Air Force Academy that were really good players. And even being at a Navy practice. Now, they all weren't great players, but I counted, I think it was 20 defensive linemen at a Navy football practice.
Wow.
Most of them are like 11 to 6'1", and probably, they aren't real special, but when you have 85 scholarships, you're lucky to have 10 or 12 defensive linemen if you're a normal Division I school. Yeah, so it's everybody has advantages, disadvantages, but you just can't be more at a disadvantage than your competition, the people that you're going to play week in and week out.
Well, you talk about that because, to me, it's really important to win a conference championship. And I don't think it's stressed enough sometimes, I think, too, because, we want to get to a bowl game, we want to have a running record. But having that conference championship in 92 and, we waited until, 99 and then 2007, 2010. The fact that I can number them is kind of scary in my lifetime, but just talk about the difficulty of just even at your time we talked about it, but even till today, some of the same issues are popping up with the school and with its ability to attract talent and attract talent and money to the program, finances. And what do you think, since your time and looking at the status of the University of Hawaii today, what do you think some of those still lingering issues that you see with the program?
Well, I think it's hurt the fact that attendance is down,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's a tough call if you're the athletic director. If you're, I don't know the number, but if you're getting X from TV,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of how the team does, uh, I mean, what AD is going to say? I tell you what, we're not going to show live games anymore. We're going to take a lot less money, and we're going to bank on people coming to see. That's a tough call. So I think the ambiance, because it's the kids, the fans. I mean, the fewer people there, the less ambiance. I mean, let's
Absolutely.
face it. A lot of times you go for the enthusiasm, right? It's the other fans that are making you feel good, right?
Yes.
Excited.
But I mean, in those days, I would get dropped off. My uncle would have to go find a satellite dish to watch the game on at some bar, and then he'd come back and pick me up after the game. But I mean, some people would say, go back to doing those things, black out the games. I mean, do you think it's possible if we did go back to the blackout? Do you think that that would still work in 2020 with getting more people to the games if we were to do something like that?
It was promoted the right way. I just think that, probably financially,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I don't know, Madeline would have to get a hell of a contract guarantee
Mm-hmm.
before he would do anything like that. That would be my guess. I
Yeah.
mean, and then the other thing, when they had the down years, I mean, I know some people that were season ticket holders for a long time, and when crowds went down, they didn't control the fans. So all at once, there was a lot of drinking going on in the game. They had real good seats.
Mm-hmm.
Well, after the game started, some of these people would come from, the other seats down there and be real rowdy, and they gave up their tickets because of that. So
Yeah.
I think if and when they build a new stadium, they really need to control the crowd. If you're paying X, you sit here and you restrict other people. They do that, Major League Baseball games,
Of course.
et cetera. I mean, you're paying for a certain experience, and but I know when my last several years, some of those games would last long enough that they were being replayed on TV
Mm-hmm.
before our game was over.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I mean, but I think that hurts local recruiting.
Yeah.
I mean, you need to be able to keep more kids at home. I mean,
Yeah.
I was thinking about that '92 team. I mean, Arizona really wanted Tanabasa. I mean, Famui. There were some people that could have taken down. Walt Santiago almost left. I mean, but we had a number of local kids we kept home. Peter Polly, could have gone to Washington. We kept a number of local, better local kids at home on a more consistent basis. And I think it really starts there. And I'm a little disappointed in, Kanani Souza, who, grew up in Hawaii, knew most of the local high school ADs. A lot of those ADs became coaches. When I first started here in '77, most of the high school coaches had gone to mainlander school. And that didn't help us. And so Kanani and I, he was, I support him, but he was the person behind it.
Okay.
Was trying to get. You okay?
Oh no, I'm good. No, you're fine. I'm just getting out of the rain, but you can keep going.
was working to get former UH players high school coaching jobs and head high school coaching jobs. And we have a number of those guys now, but I don't know to what extent their loyalty is to UH.
Yes.
And I don't know what UH has done to, a lot or a little to keep them involved in the program.
That's interesting. That's interesting that you bring that up, though. You bring up the coaches specifically because a lot of what, the conventional wisdom is, for me, get the players, get them make them fans when they're kids. When I was a kid, I've just been a UH fan my whole life. I wouldn't know what it's like to be any other fan, and I wouldn't feel any personal allegiance to any other program in Division One either. Being local boy, being from Hawaii, growing up here, and a lot of it I think was that culture that was established at your time, before you, of generations, because we all go back to our grandparents. A lot of us who are fans today, and we remember them and their example to us of being there at the games every Saturday night, 7 p.m. start or whatever it was. And do you think that culture that was built around the program, can we bring that back? Can we see those big crowds again? Do you think that's possible in today's game in Hawaii?
No, well, no, I think it's possible. I mean, nothing's impossible. I mean, the population of Oahu has grown quite a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the disappointing thing, really. But as long as those games are live, I mean, and there's parking problems, but I don't see that changing. I mean, that once you've gone down that road, I mean, I don't know how. I mean, I think they get a lot of money. For pay-per-view, right? And you lose the ambiance, and I think that's why they're also looking at a smaller stadium now. So there's multiple factors involved, but I mean, I've read about like pro sports teams. As long as they're competitive, they draw well.
Of course.
Because fans show up, and it's the ambiance, right? It's the crowd's into it, and the experience. And,
Yes.
And I don't know, maybe people a little bit jaded. Like I said, I mean, feedback I got from long-time ticket holders were, when they had some down years, and people were drunk coming down, sitting beside them, yelling obscenities and this and that. I'd heard stuff from people with young kids that had problems. Can't get out of the rain, huh?
Oh no, I'm finding my spots. You know how the rain passes over in Hawaii, so it's clear now. So I'm good.
Okay. Little mountain shower. Oh, so you're acting like a tourist then, huh?
I tour around my room right here. So I got a few little. Everybody knows this. I'm in quarantine right now because I was in the mainland. So I'm just in my little room. This is literally as far as I come out, basically, to enjoy the beauty of Hawaii. But when Cole Brennan was on, actually, he started off outside and had to move inside during the rain. So I kind of thought it would be coming, but at the same time, it's really amazing to just reflect. And as I'm talking to you and thinking about how the island that I live on, that I've been on my whole life, basically, except when I was in college, but how much it's changed and how much it's grown. But football has always been, it's, to me, it's like being Hawaiian, being local, but that in Hawaii we embrace our identity as Americans through our sports as well, through football and through all of those things and through that competition. But I'm wondering if do we still have that same inherent fan support in local people in Hawaii? Do you see that? Like before, I'm sure people are coach, and I'm sure they still do that. But do you think we still have that culture where everyone just wants to rally around the University of Hawaii?
Well, I think when they went to the Sugar Bowl, I mean, there was tremendous excitement. I mean, you have to look. I don't know how many people were watching games on pay-per-view. I mean, that would give you a good idea.
Yeah.
And what you don't know is how many of those people would go to the stadium. But ticket prices have increased. I mean, a lot of it was probably a 6 p.m. start. I mean, I always wish for something like that, but at the same time, that makes it harder traffic-wise and all that. I mean, I was a proponent of Friday night games, which would have been, and get people a half day off on Friday if they're going to a game. Let them work, a couple hours earlier in the week. As I remember when I was playing college football in Ohio, the one score they announced most Saturdays was the Miami of Florida score. because they played on Friday night. So
Ah.
that score got out there. When you were talking about calling UH early on, a first year we traveled, and then really, I didn't want any part of it. First of all, the same administration was there that I felt, just was incompetent with how they handled the football program. I mean, I think, people got holier and now, like, well, hey, do we want this kind of kid and this and that? And I remember once telling one of them, hey, I just want to win a few games. And I class checked seniors. I mean, we had graduation rates. These guys are graduating or getting close to graduation. I mean, because not everybody would class check seniors. Once they're eligible for the senior year, it's like, hey, you get a free pass, but
they're skating on by senior year already.
What's that?
They're just skating on by senior year. They're not expecting their coaches to be checking in on them or anything by the time they're seniors.
Well, yeah, and then I can't tell you how many kids called me when I was head coach, and Walt Little was one that I could help, and he was somebody that transferred from Kansas, so I knew him a little better, but he hadn't got all F's his senior year. A number of those kids, would call and they needed a degree. And so many of them, we couldn't help them at UH because they left in such bad shape.
Yeah.
So, we did, all these things you needed to do, did the right things. And anyway, so I didn't follow UH, and it was easy not to because there is a big difference. You're on the East Coast.
Yeah.
I mean, it's even in '92. This is we're all competitive. This is a little pet peeve of mine that the final poll, the Sugar Bowl team was ranked a little higher in the top 20 than our '92 team.
Yeah.
Even though they shouldn't have been in the Sugar Bowl. I mean, the team the year before was a lot better team. But in '92, I remember Don James, who I worked for, and when he recruited in Hawaii, sometimes we'd go out for dinner. I remember Don telling me, like, yeah, I didn't, you were behind University of Pittsburgh at halftime. And that's when I voted. I would have voted you higher had I known you won that game. And he was on the West Coast. So I'm thinking, how many people on
the East Coast just avoided it completely. Sure, yeah.
And I voted in the top, for, different polls for a long time. And usually, once, you get ranked, you kind of get bracketed. So if you win and this team above you loses, you'll move. And
of course.
Depending on who you are, how you've done, if you lose, you'll move down more or less, and you'll move up more or less. So going into the Holiday Bowl, we were not ranked as high as we would have been had everybody had to wait to vote after the University of Pittsburgh game. So that's a little pet peeve of mine. That we're that aspect of things. The vote was different. Well, you got a train?
I don't know. I guess I have a train track coming through Mililani that apparently they've built, or maybe it's the rail and they're testing a locomotive. I'm not sure, but all kinds of great, funny things going on in Hawaii at this time. But as we talk about your great career as a football coach, we don't want to. You did mention going to Kamehameha to the Kea'au campus, and just talk about that experience as being an AD there and what that was like for you as well.
Well, we were excited as a family. Actually, as a family, there's my daughter.
Oh.
I always thought, they'd say, hey, you got a little cheerleader. I said, no, I got a football player. And I said, she was older than that when and it was like, well, what's she going to play? She's going to be a linebacker. She thought I was linebacker, and so maybe she would have played. Maybe she would have played football otherwise. But no, I mean, we all miss Hawaii. My wife moved here in '70. Went to school at the University of Hawaii. Our daughter ended up transferring to UH from University of San Diego. Missed the islands, and of course now she works in Washington D.C. But she got that opportunity because she graduated from the University of Hawaii, and she got a congressional internship, which she would not have gotten had she stayed on the mainland. And now I'll talk about Kamehameha in a second. Rolo had me over for a couple of days, maybe 2 years ago, and that evening, once a week they'd have high school coaches in the evening do chalk and, have I don't know if they had beer, but they had some refreshments. And one of the kids that we tried to recruit, they went to Oregon State. I remember him talking. He was complaining about he graduated, got a teaching degree, was teaching in Oregon for quite a while. He said, "You know how hard it is to get a teaching job in Hawaii if you don't know somebody." And all I could think of, brah, you're the one that went away to school. I mean,
Yep.
That aspect of things. I mean, is the mainland experience that I call it the missionary influence, right? You got to go away.
Yep.
I mean,
of course.
You did it yourself.
I did.
Very good. But anyway, KS Hawaii, we call it. No, it was a great experience. Got us back to the islands, and it was good to be on a neighbor island. I mean, I didn't need Oahu and some of that stuff because administration was a lot to say, and I just I followed a little bit, but it was fun to start a high school athletics program from scratch. I mean, the good news is you had the final say on everybody you're going to hire. The bad news is you hire everybody that's there, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And it was a little bit of a challenge because we could never tie teaching and coaching positions together. I think they're doing a little more of that now.
Yeah.
But it was fun, and a lot of great people there. We had a good time. 10 years went by pretty fast. It was amazing. But got us back to the island, and we ended up moving to the dry side once we were retired. So we're kind of south of Waimea.
Okay. Okay. All right.
We're it's actually Waikiki Ranch is probably the best real estate values in the state. It's a ranch community, 10, 20, 40 acre parcels.
Wow.
A little over 4,000 feet. So it's basically Mediterranean climate in Hawaii. And nearest beach is like a half hour. And Hapuna and Mauna Kea beaches, two of the best in the world, really. I mean, they're
Hapuna is amazing.
35, 40 minutes. Dr. Beach has had each one of them number one in the country at different times. Yeah, so
Dr. Beach has a great job, by the way. Yeah, he's a guy. Dr. Beach, that's a guy that that's a cushy job that maybe that might be a good next career for you. You can go to all the beaches in Oahu, and you can just do an assessment of each one. You can Dr. Wagner Beach. There you go.
I think he's a professor. That when I coached at a small college level, you taught actual classes, and I would go in the off season to some little symposiums, and that's what I tell the professors. When I retired, I was gonna be a professor. And I didn't always make him happy, but I decided to retire and stay retired. I'm kind of either all in or all out. Being a high school AD, I mean, well, it's not like being a head coach in football at a college level because football you got to delegate a lot. Try to keep an eye on everything, but you got an offense coordinator, defense coordinator, special teams, and the difference is you got a head basketball coach, head football coach. But one season's winding down, and then all these other coaches are getting excited because their sports are going to start. And not only does that happen once, it happens twice, right? So you go through 3 cycles. But like I said earlier, a lot of great people, some really good athletes we had over there. And, you know, it was a lot of fun. You know, great system, very privileged, really, as mainland Hawaii to have a great career at the University of Hawaii and, you know, Kamehameha schools, you know, to the outstanding institutions in our state. So
absolutely,
feel very blessed.
Well, I think it's we would be remiss not to just mention just what's going on in the world, and I know some of your former players are very outspoken about you know, issues of race and you know, something with us in our program, which is so beautiful. And Jelani brought it up, and some of my old or some of our older interviews talked about just our diversity of our team. Not to say that there aren't issues, of course, with every team, but just talk to that. I know we've Kyle Mosley, Derek Branch, a lot of guys who are just in this moment right now. What is something that you would say to them?
Well, I think we're fortunate to live in Hawaii.
Yes.
I mean, you know, not all of them do. I was very disappointed years ago when they were getting away from Rainbow Warriors.
Yeah.
Because when I'd go into home, I would talk about, you know, we're you know, like the Rainbow Coalition. I mean, we have people from different countries, a lot of different states, different backgrounds, ethnically, and you know, I always sold that as a positive.
Of course.
And when, you know, I heard, well, they were running away from that because it was associated with gays, and you know, really pissed me off. And so, you know, and I don't know about yourself. Now, you're a little Hawaiian. Are you like this much Hawaiian?
I'm you know, my grandmother is full Hawaiian, born in Honoka'a, or from Honoka'a, you know, raised in Kilka'a in Hilo. So a lot of my Hawaiian stock is from that island, actually. So no, but I mean, growing up in Hawaii too, my parents didn't go to Kamehameha, so you know, there's always, but you know, just being in Hawaii, whatever high school you go to, that's like a thing, and that's not a thing everywhere. But also the fact that, you know, we don't, in Hawaii, there aren't as many black student athletes that that you associate with until you get to college, and you start to, it opens your eyes to a whole nother set of cultural norms that you need to adjust to as a player and as a human being, as a person of color particularly. And I think Kamehameha prepared me well for that, but also going to college in New York and being further exposed to people of different faiths, Jews, Muslims, and, you know, my freshman roommate wearing a kippah on his head when I met him. I mean, that was new to me as well. But those you know, those cultural exchanges are something that, like you said, in Hawaii we should be the leader of being able to bring so many cultures together and being able to blend them so well. But you as a coach were able to do that well with your players, and you know, just seeing how you know, progressive you are as well, and your thoughts and your ideals. Is that something you think that maybe not enough football coaches are behind that philosophy, or is it more of a systemic issue, and hopefully, you know, it's education is changing, or we're evolving in some way where we won't have these kind of issues as much longer?
Yeah, I got a lot of different thoughts and concerns. I know, you know, first of all, probably, you know, Ambassador, when they, you know, you said you're from Hawaii, you're Hawaiian, you probably were treated almost like royalty.
Yeah, I'm very different. I was definitely very unique, for sure. Definitely.
I remember Blaine Geisen. I don't know if you know that.
Of course I do, yeah.
Blaine, the commandment.
Of course.
I remember Blaine, you know, being in the office, was played for the Falcons for a long time. He came in the office, had a T-shirt on, said, "Proud to be Hawaiian." And, you know, I gave him a hard time. He's like, "Yeah, hey, Blaine, we know you're Hawaiian." And he said, "Coach, when I wear this out in the neighborhood I live in, I wear this out all the time when I go out in the neighborhood in Atlanta that I live in." And Charlie Kahui, the older brother of Pono.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a whole other story. I didn't know that. Charlie got me tickets to C&K concert, and I go in. I'm second row, front of the stage. I'm his office mate. I mentioned about C&K. Oh, I hear they're having a concert. Boy, I like their music. Well, I can get you a ticket. He never told me, your local style, right? He never told me he was the older brother of Capono. And I'm sitting with the family. But anyway,
Wow.
Charlie and 8 or 10 friends from Hawaii get recruited to go to junior college in California.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is years ago, but unfortunately, it was for some people it hadn't changed. We're walking down the street on a Sunday afternoon, and they're being called names, not black, but because they thought they were Hispanic. And okay, and a few days later, there was an article in the paper about this group of Hawaiian kids who were at the junior college.
Mm-hmm. Their
appearance didn't change at all, and all at once they were treated totally differently because you're Hawaiian.
Yep.
I've had other. That's why I asked you about your situation. I've had other. I mentioned the plane guys and deal, but other Polynesian kids on the mainland. Oh, look, Kimo Weaver, great guy. He took my spot at loses the AD. Yeah, his dad was a Haole Marine. His mom was a Hawaiian from Haula. And Dad had a contact. When Dad retired, they moved to rural Utah.
Okay.
And and once they realized they were Hawaiian, hey, they were great. Things didn't change. The fact that they were this instead of that.
Yeah.
And he's talking about when he was first dating his wife. He married a Haole gal from Utah. They were cheerleading there. And I think he overheard or whatnot. She was talking to her mom once. It was like, "Are you still dating that N boy?" I mean, so it's and my concern, and I had somebody that I knew a little bit that was a CEO of a company that advertises nationally. I overheard him once say something when Obama was president. It's like if Obama and the blacks, keep acting that way, we'll quit hiring blacks altogether. So it's tough because what happened is terrible. Shouldn't have happened. Most law enforcement people that I associate with or know or see posts, I mean,
of course,
that has no place.
Yeah.
At the same time, people that are real racist, that's just, I think, unfortunately, it's going to anger some of them. And so be it. But no, as far as me being progressive, I think a lot of that was my mom. I mean, she loved everybody, and then all of us, I think, in Na'au. Right,
yeah, of course, yes. I love the use of Na'au. Very good.
Feel different in terms. I remember going to church camp. I had to, get a partial scholarship to go. My dad had to start work when he was in third grade.
Wow.
Finished third grade.
Wow.
So I'm at church camp, and the town I was from was next door to a smaller town, beautiful town, a college town. And the minister's son from that small town and his buddy, I remember them talking. This goes back 12 years old or something, 13, whatever, 14. They were bragging about how they had no blacks in Granville, this small town in Ohio. And it's like, that's one of the things that soured me a little bit on organized religion. When the minister's son and his buddy are talking like that, I mean, it's just. So it's tough, and what's unfortunate now, it seems like there's some bad actors that are getting involved that are doing a lot of the maliciousness, right? And some of them may not be necessarily just Antifa,
Yeah.
maybe right wingers.
Yeah.
So it's
Just general anarchists that love destroying things for no purpose.
yeah, and or trying to make the black people look bad.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's part of it. I mean, you don't know what people's motivation are.
Of course.
And of course, I don't think our president's helping the situation, but we probably shouldn't go there. Although I just did. But,
you can keep going. You understand? This is a free show like Radio Free Hawaii, where we would have, and back when you were coaching, and you could just say anything on the radio. So I remember those days. Same concept, but.
It was just, to me, I mean, it's just seeing what's happening there, and what people are putting up with, and understanding, some of the things behind it. I mean, I feel extra fortunate to be living here in Hawaii.
Absolutely.
And when you're talking about quarantining in your own backyard, and we have like 1,000 acres that we can roam, and not come within yards of people.
Of course.
I mean, I'm very fortunate from that standpoint too.
Absolutely, very
but
fortunate.
Yeah, there's so many good guys in the program, and like Derek, I thought it was interesting where some of the guys and some of the coaches might have talked those kids out of the fight too. We've had that happen. I mean, where coaches didn't want guys to get on the plane because they might like Hawaii, so they tried to scare them ahead of time.
Really? Interesting.
Oh, sure. Oh, no, for sure. For sure. Well, and we did a little bit of that. We tried. We tried to do a little bit of it ourselves. I mean, where, because the missionary influence, some of these kids just, it used to be, now it seems like they get, UH have gotten more Puno kids over the years than they used to get.
Yes.
But I think Puno is also recruiting again, so that helps. No, we used to, I remember there was a Puno kid that ended up being a real good player at Utah that we really liked, but he was a Puno kid. And he had no scholarship offers.
Wow.
And we made the mistake of offering him a day or two before signing date.
As
soon as we offered him, Utah offered him.
Of course. They waited,
They were like, well, if Hawaii's not offering, how good can this guy be, right?
Yep.
And then, and I think it was Sam Papali'i was there at the time. And, Sam was pushing a guy, and so we did some of that too, where if we could keep a kid from visiting the mainland, especially if we knew what his background was, that he might be leaning that way. But I call it the missionary influence. I mean, I grew up in Central Ohio. I mean, I remember on one hand, I mean, we had a graduate class of 550. We may have had a half dozen or dozen kids that went out of state to school. I mean, you didn't have to go to Ames, Iowa. I mean, that's what I get a kick out of. Where is Vassar anyway? Is that New York City?
Poughkeepsie, New York.
Poughkeepsie?
Yes.
Oh, Poughkeepsie. God, you did exactly what I think these kids. Hey, I'm going to the mainland. I'm going to Pullman, Washington.
Yep.
See the world.
Yep. Yeah. I know.
At least in Poughkeepsie, Vassar, it's going to be a little more of a melting pot than Pullman, Washington.
Yes, yes. And I bring up Pullman all the time, especially more now, clearly, as to so if anyone out there, do not go to Pullman, Washington, okay? Stay far away from Pullman, Washington.
I didn't even think about that aspect of going there. Well, I'm sure they won't recruit in here.
Oh, I'm sure. Not at all. I'm sure we won't see anyone going to Washington State. No, not at all.
They don't know anything about Hawaii athletes. They don't know anything about Hawaii athletes.
They have a great quarterback from St. Louis now on their team. So they definitely got their foot back in, but I think we know why that is. But, Coach, it's been just a absolute pleasure. I feel like we definitely have to do an X's and O's type of thing with you, because I would love to have you on a dry erase board or something and talking, because I think you definitely have that fire, and we would love to get some more of your knowledge. But before I let you go, anything else you wanted to add? I kept you for 2 whole hours, so I feel kind of bad now, but it's just been so enjoyable in hearing from you.
Oh no, thank you. I mean, hey, once a coach, always a coach, and hopefully somebody tuned in.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure a few, more than a few. So I'm sure more people will watch this afterward as well, and go over all the many gems that you shared with us. And I mean, we have so many amazing memories that we go by. But I definitely wanted to let you get your last word in, because I know you, like you said, you don't get a lot of chances. So we love hearing from you.
No, I don't.
Oh, I should go. I could go to my questions.
What?
I could go to my question board. I ignored some of our questions for a little while, so maybe we can go to. I don't know if we had anything. I think most of it was people just kind of tuning in and seeing and catching on with you, catching up and hearing all the great things that they remember from your time. But I just want to thank you again, Coach Bob Wagner, and mahalo nui for your time and your service to Hawaii, and also still being a part of our Hawaiian community, and still sharing your mana'o with us, but also sharing your example, a lifelong career of service as a coach and as a public figure, and as somebody who was able to mold young Hawaiian minds as well. And I think that's really important as we all grow. I mean, we all develop. We do have to leave. Some of us really need to leave, and we need to appreciate the island. And for me, that's what it was. And I know it's not easy to keep local kids. I mean, I could have walked on at UH and done something else, but I think that definitely the allure of going somewhere else, and the allure of seeing another world, and growing up in an island and thinking there's so much more out there to see. But
there's all kinds of opportunities to do that after UH as well. There's grad
Absolutely.
school, there's careers. I
Mhm.
mean, and especially to play in front of family and friends.
Yes.
There's no substitute for that. After a game, seeing your parents, seeing your girlfriend. I mean, no, I mean, there's a reason I came back. The mainland was that great. We went back, we tasted it again, and it's like, hey, it's all right. There's but you can go on vacations. And
Of course.
There's a lot of opportunities, right?
Of course.
Once the airlines get going again, there's the airline jobs. I mean, there's all kinds of opportunities. So anyway,
there'll be lots of
I
opportunity.
enjoyed it. Thank you for the invitation. Enjoyed visiting.
Well, thank you again. And for those watching, I'm going to play that tribute video again, and I'll send you a copy of as well, Coach. But for Wayne Coito, the founder of Hawaii Sports Fans, and our coach, Bob Wagner, we'll see you folks next time. Mahalo. Aloha.
Thank you.
Simply put, October 28, 1989 was the greatest night of my life.
Not only did we beat BYU, we crushed them. Going into that game, UH had 10 straight losses against the Cougars. So the year prior, 88, we lost by 1 point, a heartbreaker. But that season opener against nationally ranked Iowa, which many fans to this day say that is the biggest upset in school history.
Thanks for all your contributions to the University of Hawaii, both as a defensive coordinator and as head coach.
Thank you, Coach Wagner.
It's kind of overwhelming. I really still haven't had a chance to have all this season sink in. It's just been an incredible year.